Thank you. So, digital identity and zero knowledge compliance with surveillance is the topic of our panel. So, we got already a great introduction from Markus and Lukas about like what's decentralized identifiers, verifiable credentials, and zero knowledge proofs. So now we go a bit broader and also have invited two more guests. First one is Nikita Eryashev, is DACH Growth Manager at Tangem, who is producing hardware wallets. So also privacy is a big topic there, and the cryptography, of course. He will tell about it afterwards. And we have Tonya Tambakeraki, who is researcher at University of Nicosia. She's working on an EU project called Agora, where she's focusing on DAOs in the metaverse, and she investigates also how DAO governance structure affects social and cultural norms. So maybe I'll start with you, Tonya, like just maybe you can introduce how what your personal connection is to the topic, to identities in the field of DAOs.
Thank you. It's very nice to be here. Thank you very much for having me, and it's a pleasure to be in this panel with these esteemed speakers. My name is Tonya. My work is with the University of Nicosia. My research is on DAOs. Specifically on my PhD, I'm working on DAOs on Metaverse, but I'm mainly focused on the decentralization part of the research. So I'm very much aligned with what was presented by Markus and Lukas, because I believe that in principle, whatever it is that we do in this space, we definitely need to offer it through decentralized means to allow security, safety, privacy, and anonymity to the users. So this is how this is connected to my research. I can say more when we follow in the discussions. Thank you.
Thanks. So Nikita, how is this topic related to your work at Tangem, to the wallets that you are producing?
Well, does it work? Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having us. My name is Nick, for convenience. Tangem is a hardware wallet, as you correctly mentioned. Self-custody and security and privacy go hand in hand. And the technology that we provide, like now we are one of the biggest, or three biggest providers globally. It can be used in for the cases you described in your presentations, like even without sharing the biometrics. So I'm pretty excited about the talk.
Thank you. So when we talk about privacy combined with digital identities, also in a decentralized systems, there's always mentioned this kind of trade-off between transparency on the one hand side, because everything is stored on chain, on the blockchain, you can see everything. But on the other hand, you need privacy because you cannot just put your iris scan and all your personal data on the chain, because then you would be, everybody could see anything about you. And like in this trade-off between transparency and privacy, do you think is this compliance without surveillance actually achievable right now, or do we need to investigate more into this topic and then do some more research to really get some mainstream solutions? Maybe let's start with Markus.
It's an old question. I think I talked a little bit about how the term self-sovereign identity and decentralized identity, how that started. Back then, a lot of people actually called this idea blockchain identity, because the idea was that we would have our identities on blockchain. And some of the very early startups, they actually put a lot of personal information on the blockchain. But I think the entire community by now has realized that you should not put your clear name or your address or your date of birth directly on a blockchain, because that would violate the GDPR, all the data protection regulations, and it would be a surveillance nightmare. if you think about it, some of the fundamental properties of blockchain don't actually align so well with identity, right? The immutability, the full transparency that you mentioned, those are actually things that you don't really want for your personal data, for your identity. So I think today we're at a point where blockchain does play a role in decentralized and digital identity, but not very much, right? We use it maybe for key management, we use it for maybe storing some encrypted or hashed data, but not more than that. And if we do it the right way, I think it is possible to achieve this kind of alignment.
So, Lucas?
Yeah, so I think the deck is there, the deck is ready to achieve this. So on the one hand, to be compliant, but also on the other hand, not to be like open up and share all your data with literally everyone out there. So we have, as I pointed out earlier, we have zero knowledge proofs to prove certain statements about my data. I think that's a great start. Obviously, a lot of this technology still needs further development, further research, further robustness, but I think it's already there to be applied in production. And we see that with the example of World, where they are managing the iris data of 18 million users around the globe in a fully privacy-preserving way, right? So the World as an operator never gets to see the data. It's encrypted, it's shared amongst independent node operators, which are mainly universities, and they prove it works. So I think it's not a matter of the technology so much, but more like the urgency and the need for privacy technology. As long as people are totally fine in trading all their personal data for free services and free products, why should anyone care about privacy in the first place? And I'm quite pessimistic that this will ever change. I think people just don't care too much about it. What I do see is when people now starting to interacting on public blockchains, there the need is much bigger actually, because right now it's not anymore you trade your data with one big corporate, but actually if you trade, you put your data literally to billions of people out there. Everyone can see what you're doing. And I think that's going to be a game changer. And there, the need for those privacy technologies going to be much bigger.
Thanks. So, Tonya, do you see any practical problems with this privacy-preserving compliance in DAOs?
In principle, I have to agree with what was said by my colleagues. And I just have to say one thing. As Lucas said, the technology is there. And I believe that in the unique transaction level, we don't have a problem in terms of compliance becoming surveillance. But if you look at it on a system level, who is monitoring the issuers? So the ones that are actually collecting the data. So from my perspective, this is like a governance issue. So we need to look into that aspect as well. So I think it's important that we look into the governance aspects in terms of who is actually collecting the data, what are they doing with the data, who is auditing them, what's the due process that they are following in order to collect the attestations, and whether they have like a right to revoke this kind of data, the certificates that they issue once the circumstances change, for example.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's an important point, like how can we trust the issuers, basically, and then how do we define like this trust anchor, like where do we start? Like, is it some public authorities or like some communities, also DAO maybe? So that's probably a topic that still needs a bit of research. Yeah. Nikita, what's your opinion on the topic? So are we already there, like that we can use decentralized identity for compliance without surveillance, or is it still some way to go?
Well, I think the balance is really difficult to strike. Like on the one hand, you have crypto, whose promise has always been permissionless nature, and decentralized nature. And on the other hand, you have to abide by the laws of the government and also satisfy all the obligations. But I think we managed to do it. I think the border, this balance lies exactly on the border between the crypto system and the fiat system. And our principle has been, when you want to cash out, then identification is mandatory. When you don't, you can swap and do whatever you wish with your crypto. And compliance without surveillance is also possible with swaps, even with decentralized ones. They are now in various jurisdictions. They are now obliged to check every transaction. So even if they don't ask for your personal data, they check whether the addresses and the crypto hasn't been tarnished by theft or crime or whatever, and then they execute the swap. So you don't have to worry unless you have something to worry about.
But actually, that's a good point, because there you still give up data, right? I still trade with my publicly known wallet. I perform a swap. I send transaction to someone else. I don't want to spend buying some stuff with my wallet, because in the end, the merchant gets to see all the data, gets to see my balance, gets to see my assets. So I think this is we're still in an area where we do give up too much data. That's also the reason why we build solutions to actually have private token transfers, encrypted token transfers, which kind of conflicts what you just said, that everyone can still analyze and track what's going on, right? So once everyone changes to a private system, we won't be able to run the same AML checks and sanction list checks anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct. I agree with you. But, on a personal level, it still adds privacy into your life, when you do it through a decentralized swap, because, then the tracking even on the blockchain explorer is more difficult.
Uh-huh. Yeah, maybe let's go to the regulations. We have already heard today about MiCA, for example, but also in the identity space, there's some regulations. This eIDAS 2.0 is coming into effect, and a big part of it is this EUDI Wallet, which basically you might know if you're living in Austria. There's this ID Austria, which is quite common already. You can sign your documents with it. You can log into different authorities. So the idea here is to do that also on an European level, where you can use your Austrian ID and to do it also in other countries, and also to store all kind of certificates like driving licenses and so on in that wallet. So what do you think of these initiatives? Are they part of the solution? I mean, they're not really associated with blockchain as far as I know, but are these initiatives going into the right direction, or is it something that might hinder innovation because it blocks new paths and basically defines a standard that has to be followed? Maybe Markus, you can start with that. I think that's your topic.
Yeah, so eIDAS, the eIDAS 2 regulation, if you don't know, this means that every citizen and every resident in EU countries will have access to digital identity wallets built and provided by the state. So every EU member state must provide these wallets to residents and citizens in the EU. I think it's a good thing. I think it will help with digitalization. I think it was created through a democratic process in the EU Parliament. I think it observes certain concerns or safeguards. So there are privacy features also, there are pseudonyms and things like that. So I think it's generally a good thing. There are some elements of decentralization in it. So for example, if I use my European digital identity wallet somewhere to prove that I'm over 18, then the government who issued the wallet to me, they will not know where and how I used it. So that's a good thing. But I think it's also important to see that there are also some elements of centralization. So it's not this very pure self-sovereign identity, this idealistic thing, because it still depends on a government, right? It's still about the state, the government issuing to me this wallet. And on a philosophical level, I think identity, who I am, is much more than that, right? So there are people, my children, for example, they have 3 different passports, right? Does that mean that they have 3 different identities? There are people in the world who don't have any passports, right? Who are not citizens of any country, but philosophically speaking, they still have an identity. And there are a lot of use cases potentially where the eIDAS, this state-issued and little bit centralized approach will not work. There are ideas such as a web of trust, right? I can give you an example. If I'm an employer and I want to hire somebody who is a good TypeScript programmer, for example, then I could ask somebody to present to me a digital diploma where I can see, okay, they studied computer science, they learned how to program in TypeScript, and that's enabled from using a verifiable credential from a university, which is accredited by the state. So this is something that the EUDI Wallet will enable. But if I have 3 friends who recommend to me somebody and they say that he's a good TypeScript programmer, then this could be equally as valuable, right? So identity is not just something that comes from the state or from trusted institutions, but it can also exist in a peer-to-peer way. And this is the part that's completely missing in eIDAS, right? So I think it's a good thing, but it doesn't model all of what digital identity can be.
Mm-hmm. Then maybe Nikita, like how is this EUDI wallet related to what you're doing at Tangam? Is this something you have on your monitor, or it's not really something that you want to look into?
Well, not related at all, but originally I was more optimistic about the wallet because I thought it would work with the zero-knowledge proofs that the gentleman described here today, and like where you could share only the, what do you call it, attestation, in your technical jargon. But I took the time, like even before the panel, I took the time to see the roadmap, and apparently you will be sharing and revoking the data, but it's still the data itself. So I don't know what additional benefits that brings. If it were really the zero knowledge proof, then it could even reduce the regulatory pressure on startups, because if you don't have to store clients' data, that that unloads your, puts a whole load over your shoulders. But if you still have to, collect the data and then react to every request to remove it, like you will, this is additional. That requires additional resources, like even more than you have to spend now, because like now you just store it for a certain period of time and then it's deleted automatically. So now I'm quite skeptical.
Okay, so Lucas, what's your opinion? Is it compatible with what you're doing with the zero knowledge proofs, or?
It seems like we are ready for the version 2, for the upgraded version. So as you pointed out, right now all the data is still shared, but once there are attempts to actually just provide a proof of the data, I think then our technology could serve and work together with those wallets built out. In general, I think it's a good thing that we have something like this. It standardizes things. It raises awareness for this issue, and it's also kind of a regulatory pull we see. And I think those are very positive effects. My only concern, and I hope it won't turn out that way, is I see some parallel to central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Kind of pushed from centralized entities, and they feel like never getting really off the ground. Meanwhile, we see stablecoins being issued all over the world and capturing a lot of market cap. So I hope that we don't see the same with the EUDI Wallet standard. But yeah, let's see, I guess.
Okay, Tanya, what's your opinion on these regulations?
I think it's better to have a framework than not to have anything, for sure. I think it's important that this is not just a niche thing that is just happening. It's something that is happening at EU level for every single member state. So it's something that will definitely be adapted at some point, and I believe maybe even faster than we originally thought. But if I have a fear, it's that it's maybe going to be some sort of compliance tracker for the member states, at least in the first implementation phase. I hope I'm proven wrong, but this is what I fear the most.
Okay, good, thanks. So brings us to our next question. So do you think that zero knowledge proofs are the ultimate solution for the privacy dilemma, or is there still more research needed, or like also other technologies maybe? So what's your opinion, Lucas, as the main expert on zero knowledge proofs?
I think zero knowledge proofs are one component, one tool out of a big toolbox. I think it's definitely the one with the strongest privacy guarantees, because in the end, as we saw earlier in the example, always the proofer has all the secret data. No one else get ever to see the data. It's just the proof presented to someone else. And in terms of privacy, that's the maximum you can get. Though it has some drawbacks still. So I don't know, if you think about fully zero knowledge proofed know your customer approaches, right? This would require always the customer to be involved, always the customer to actually prove at this moment in time, yes, I am not sanctioned, or yes, I am over 18, whatever. I said great for privacy, but sometimes might be a bit tricky when someone else wants to compute on this data. And for that reason, I think besides zero knowledge proofs, we need to also look into other technologies. Kind of the bucket is called privacy enhancing technologies, or BETS, where we also have something like multi-party computation in there. Multiple participating nodes and entities get to see just an encrypted share of sensitive data, and collaboratively they compute on this data. Or something like fully homomorphic encryption. You just have one ciphertext and it can compute directly on the ciphertext. So I think zero knowledge proofs are great. I think they are not the silver bullet we are hoping for, but in combination with other technologies, we get already quite decent solutions.
Mm-hmm. Good, thanks. Markus, so do you see already these zero knowledge proofs integrated into verifiable credentials, for example? I think the standard allows it, but is it really also in the practice already the case that there are lots of use cases for that?
Yes, it has already been done. So the standards I mentioned, the DADs and the verifiable credentials, they are technically extensible for different kinds of signatures, different kinds of proof mechanisms, including zero knowledge proofs. My understanding is zero knowledge proofs is not just one specific technology. It's more of a concept, and there are many different cryptographic ways of doing zero knowledge proofs. So it's important, I think, to understand the different trade-offs in terms of what is shared with whom exactly, and what's the cost, and how long does it take, and how much memory does it take, and is it done in hardware or in software? Is it approved by the EU? Is it quantum proof? So there are a lot of different types of zero knowledge proofs, but yes, it's a good technology. I agree, and it's ready for integration with the standard. And by the way, it's also, I think, on the roadmap, or possible to add it to the EUDI wallet at some point, right? So that with the EUDI wallet, you have to distinguish the legal side, the regulation, which is eIDAS, and the technical side, a set of standards. And the regulation, I think, is actually quite aligned with the ideas of zero knowledge proofs, because the regulations, the legal text, it talks about selective disclosure, it talks about minimal disclosure, it talks about non-correlation, and these kinds of things that zero knowledge proofs can address.
Mm-hmm. Good, then Tonya, so what's your opinion, like how can zero knowledge proofs maybe impact decentralized communities? Do you have already some ideas how they could be used or how they are already used?
I think that the examples that we saw already are very important, and I think the technology on its own is the zero knowledge proofs are quite an enabler in terms of aspects of identity and verification. I think zero knowledge proofs could definitely be a good option for some DAOs. And I'm actually looking into a framework where this can be implemented, but this is like a work in progress, so I don't have much to say about this for now.
Okay, then Nikita, do you have any use cases in your domain or in general where you think zero knowledge proofs might be useful for maybe in the crypto space, like where hardware wallets are also involved?
Yeah, sure. The technology per se is great, and like as my colleague mentioned, there are different protocols where you can implement that, and you can at a couple of conferences there were a lot of presentations about how you can implement that on Ethereum by making Ethereum more private. But at the same time, it doesn't eliminate the human factor at all, like completely, because you still have to attest the issues. Yeah, so you have to distinguish like good institutions from bad institutions. So, for example, someone like a university gives you a diploma. Yeah, you have to attest every university, like whether to see if they really have the legal right to issue diplomas, and as long as the institutions are healthy. And corruption is under control, everything works fine. But if we speak about developing countries where it's not the case, then we need to find other mechanisms. But that would be a social and political theory rather than cryptography.
Yeah, thanks. So we need to wrap up. So last question, like please short answer. So where do you see the decentralized identity and privacy technologies, let's say in 3 to 5 years? Will there be like mainstream adoption already, maybe with the EUDI Wallet, or do we have still a longer way to go? Maybe starting with Tonya.
Yeah, I think I said that already, but I do believe that in the next 3 to 5 years, we will definitely see adoption. I believe that in any case, the legislation, the regulation is pushing towards this direction. So it's going to happen one way or the other. But I think that the fact that we are given some options in terms of opting out and selecting what it is that we want to disclose or what we don't want to disclose, it's something that is going to enhance the use of the wallet and the regulation itself. And I think it's going to happen like subconsciously. It's something that will just become, trivial.
Mm-hmm. Nikita?
Yeah, in the company and in the industry where I am, we do register greater desire for privacy, and we do register an increase in key management abilities of the population. So by that I mean like how to set up a wallet, how to manage the keys, and so on. And yeah, I'm very optimistic about the prospects of this technology being widespread and all-encompassing.
So Lucas, you think in 5 years everybody will use your technologies?
I hope so. In general, I'm rather optimistic for these kind of technologies. I think we have kind of a unique chance. I would like to compare with what happened throughout the 1990s, when people started to interact with online systems, but nobody actually wanted to put a credit. It was you didn't want to put your credit card information in an online form, right? And then some cryptographers came by and invented HTTPS, the DLS protocol, and suddenly we were able to send data encrypted from a client to a server, which was kind of the start for a totally new economy, actually. And so what we were able to do with data in transit, so sending it from A to B, I really hope we can also achieve now for data during compute. So when the data is actually used, why not just encrypt it and compute on the encrypted data? And I think that's something we and many other teams are trying to solve and build for. And I see actually quite an appetite in the industry to adopt these kind of technologies. But I think the biggest push will definitely come from regulatories to kind of make it mandatory that data is more protected.
Okay, thanks. Last words, Markus?
I think there will be adoption, of course, for example, because of the EUDI Wallet that will be applied to many use cases and people will start using it. But I'm also sure that in a few years we will realize that the concept of identity, who we are as human beings when we go online, is more than just biometrics and my driving license and my birth certificate. The way how we see identity, how we present ourselves, that also changes a lot over time. The way how we think about this concept, identity is also culturally dependent, right? The concept of having a wallet where I manage my identity is a very individualistic Western concept. In other parts of the world, the way how identity works is much more community-based, based on relationships. So I think for all these things, there will also still be a lot of room for innovation.
Yeah, thanks. That was our panel, and I hope you got some interesting bits of information. And yeah, we are open for questions afterwards. Just come to us and we will answer your questions.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to the panelists. Thank you a lot. Don't go too far away. We will continue now with another exciting topic of staking and mining. I think I was super excited about this a couple of bull markets ago. I hope we get the motivation back after this amazing speech and the panel. We will start with the talk by Max Sherwood and Daniel Urstoger, both co-founders at H2O Nodes.
I don't know. Sorry? Slide link?